Good morning, Commissioners, Chief McDonald, Mr. Sibley, Madam Secretary, Acting Inspector General Florence Yu, City Attorney Carlos De La Guerra, members of the public. Today is Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. It is 9:38 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect Commissioner Suthers, Shields, Calanche, and Garcia are present, and we have a quorum. Mr. President.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning. The Police Commission is committed to ensuring equal access to its meetings. It is requested that individuals who require the services of a translator contact the board secretary no later than the day preceding the meeting. Whenever possible, a translator will be provided. Sign language interpreters, assistive listening devices, or other auxiliary aids and/or services may be provided upon request. To ensure availability, you are advised to make your request at least 72 hours prior to the meeting you wish to attend. All public comment will be heard during item number 2 on the agenda. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 minutes total. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes total. The order of speakers will be a speaker in the room will go first, then we'll take a speaker watching today's meeting on Zoom. We will alternate between speakers in the room and Zoom for a total of 45 minutes. Members of the public who participate in public comment are reminded that they can speak to any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board, so you are free to express your opinion on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions expressed. However, directing your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinion shall be deemed off-topic, and your public comment period will be concluded. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in the public comment portion of the agenda, you can participate in this meeting in a number of ways outlined on the agenda. Message for those attending the meeting in person. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The State Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to be present at the meetings, hear the presentations, dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via the public comment period. During these meetings, there is a need for the board to carry out public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes an actual disruption of the meeting. Those attending in person are reminded that disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. All attendees must be seated. Failure to follow this rule will result in a warning and/or removal from the meeting. With that, we will move to item number 1, the report of the Chief of Police, Chief McDonald.
Thank you. Good morning, President Suthers, Vice President Shields, Commissioners, Acting Inspector General Yu, City Attorney De La Guerra, and Mr. Sibley. Today I'll be discussing some significant events from the previous 2 weeks, providing a crime update, and discussing our personnel strength. We had an officer-involved shooting that was captured on TV in Southwest Division on November 26th. About 12:17 hours, Harbor Division uniformed patrol officers responded to a radio call of an assault with a deadly weapon, domestic violence suspect in the area of South Gaffey and West 19th Street. The comments of the call indicated the victim, a Los Angeles Department of Transportation Dash bus driver, was being followed by the suspect later identified as Andre Jones, who was armed with a firearm and driving a white Maserati. The victim and Jones had a prior dating relationship and have a child in common. Harbor officers observed Jones's vehicle and attempted to conduct a traffic stop. Jones fled from the officers and a vehicle pursuit ensued, which traversed the 110 freeway and terminated when Jones drove his vehicle to the rear of an apartment building at 3035 West Boulevard. Jones got out of the vehicle and walked eastbound down an alley toward the street. Jones then produced 2 firearms, 1 in each hand, pointed them at the officers, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. Jones fired multiple rounds at the officers, but was struck by gunfire and fell to the ground. Jones was taken into custody without further incident. Officers placed Jones in a recovery position and monitored him until the arrival of LAFD personnel who transported Jones to a local hospital, where he was admitted for his injuries. A Smith & Wesson Model SD9VE 9mm firearm located with 1 round in the chamber and 8 rounds in the magazine, and a Taurus 9mm firearm with no rounds in the chamber and no rounds in the magazine were recovered next to Jones at the scene. Both firearms were booked as evidence. A female bystander who was seen approaching Jones was also struck by gunfire and sustained an injury to her right arm. The female, later identified as Shirley Dumas, was found to be Jones's mother and was detained at scene. Officers rendered aid to Dumas until the arrival of the fire department, who transported Dumas to a local hospital where she was treated and released for her injury. No officers or other community members were injured as a result of the incident. Force Investigation Division investigators responded to the scene and are investigating the incident. Year to date, we've had 26 officer-involved shootings in comparison to 34 this time last year, for a decrease of 23.5%. Some significant arrests to report. As we continue our mission to ensure the safety and well-being of our communities, I'd like to take a moment to highlight our efforts in addressing crime trends as they arise. Despite the challenges posed by our current staffing levels, we remain proactive and innovative in combating criminal activity to protect the neighborhoods we serve. On December 6th, Devonshire area detectives requested assistance from Metropolitan Division's B Platoon in apprehending a suspect connected to a burglary crew that had been targeting the Devonshire area. Using a phone ping warrant, Metro officers tracked the suspect to Devonshire area where a burglary had just occurred. When officers attempted to stop the suspect, he fled, initiating a pursuit. During the pursuit, the suspect rammed the officer's vehicle in an attempt to escape. The pursuit crossed through multiple divisions and ultimately ended up in Southwest area when the suspect collided with another motorist. Despite the suspect's effort to evade capture, officers took him into custody without further incident. A search of the suspect's vehicle uncovered evidence related to the recent burglary. Further investigation led to the authorization of a search warrant for the suspect's residence in Rampart Division. There, additional evidence was recovered linking the suspect to a series of burglaries. The suspect was subsequently arrested for the burglary. Another recent arrest I'd like to highlight involves the apprehension of 2 suspects responsible for a series of violent robberies in our community. Between December 2nd and 3rd, these individuals carried out robberies in the Olympic and Wilshire areas, targeting a smoke shop, a swap meet, and a dispensary. Armed with hammers and handguns, they used threats and force to demand merchandise, causing fear in the affected neighborhoods. Recognizing the seriousness of the situation, Southwest Gang Enforcement Detail worked in close coordination with Olympic Division officers to identify the suspects. Through diligent investigation and follow-up video surveillance and vehicle identification, specifically a red Mercedes, they detained the suspects. They determined the suspects were members of a local gang. On December 3rd, the suspects were located and taken into custody without incident. On December 5th, the District Attorney's Office filed multiple charges against both suspects, including robbery and commercial burglary. I want to just thank all of the officers involved in this case for their dedication, professionalism, and teamwork. Their swift actions not only resulted in the arrest, but also demonstrated our department's commitment to holding those who commit violent crimes accountable for their actions. On December 9th, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Foothill Division officers responded to a call of a cutting at Verdugo Hills High School. The incident involved a violent altercation among individuals with suspected affiliation to rival gangs. The suspect engaged in a verbal dispute with 2 victims, which escalated, resulting in the suspect stabbing both victims. Victim 1 sustained a stab wound to the neck. Victim 2 was stabbed in the abdomen. Both victims were transported to Northridge Hospital where they're listed in stable condition. Thanks to the quick response and teamwork by Foothill Division officers, the suspect was located a short distance from the school during a traffic stop. He was positively identified and taken into custody. The high school was placed on lockdown during the incident to ensure the safety of students and staff, and no other students and staff were injured during the incident. Crime picture for the week ending on the 24th of November. During the past 4 weeks, from the 10th of November to December 7th, during this period, we've seen a 13.2% reduction in combined person and property crimes, which translates to 1,260 fewer offenses overall. And looking at homicides continue to trend downward, and this is a positive shift. As of December 7th, homicides are down 15.6% compared to 2023, which is a reduction of 49 incidents. Compared to 2022, the decrease is even more significant, with over 28% or 104 fewer incidents. This year, there have been 266 homicides citywide. Of those, 93 have been identified as gang-related. That's 35% of all homicides this year, compared to 47% last year and over 54% the year before. This progress reflects the combined efforts of targeted gang intervention strategies, community partnerships, and proactive enforcement. We've also seen a reduction in shootings. Year-to-date, victims shot are down 18.9% compared to last year, with 217 fewer victims. When compared to 2022, that reduction grows to 26.2, or 331 fewer victims impacted by gun violence. Moving to the past 4 weeks, several categories stand out. Aggravated assaults are down 13.7%, or 175 fewer incidents. Robberies have dropped by 13.7, or a reduction of 91 incidents. And burglaries are down 10.2, with notable decreases in both commercial burglaries, which are down 17%, and residential burglaries down 6.4%. Motor vehicle thefts have decreased by 16.2%, or 297 fewer incidents in the past 4 weeks. On the topic of vehicle theft, certain models remain consistent targets. Among the most frequently stolen vehicles are Kia and Hyundai models. They continue to be targeted, as well as Chevrolet vehicles, particularly Silverados, have seen a slight increase. Notably, there's been an increase in stolen Camaros over the same period. We're also tracking thefts of specialized modes of transportation like e-bikes and scooters, which are down 18% in the past 4 weeks. Just a quick report on our personnel strength as of November 25th. Number of sworn personnel is 8,784. That's 51 above our sworn authorities of 8,733, and civilian personnel staffing is at 2,681. We currently still have 380 reserve officers, and that completes my report for today, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you for the detailed report and the update. What I'd like to do is acknowledge and thank you for adopting AB 449 and the new statute that was passed this past year on hate crimes, and the video that went out from the governor's office in educating and making people aware, both in first responder community and the community, about hate crimes, what the officers should do and what the public should do. As everybody probably knows, every law enforcement officer in the state is required to know and follow a policy spelled out in the law in detail on this matter. And every law enforcement agency in the state was to adopt a policy by July 1st. So I want to thank you for implementing a policy that everyone in this department, sworn and civilian, will look at that video. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
With that, I'll move to Vice President Shields for comments or questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief, for the report. And I'd like to echo the thanks to the officers and the detectives who put in the hard work to identify the string of burglars and robbers who are really maybe a small percentage who are doing the mass amount of crimes. So thank you for having those apprehended, and hopefully that will give people more of a sense that there are consequences for those actions and deter further crime. And, you know, one thing I was able to do since our last meeting was I did a kind of tour with the Transit Services Division, went on the Metro to see the efforts that are being done for safety. I think that there's like one mental health clinician assigned. If there's any way we could work with the Department of Mental Health to get more mental health clinicians there, and the more we can advocate for just access control, I think those are. But I wanted to give credit to the Transit Services Division for their efforts there to make sure that the ridership is safe. There are so many people in the city that need and rely on public transportation, and so it's great to see that they're making significant efforts to keep everyone safe there. They also had a toy giveaway with the local elementary school children, and I think those are terrific events to have. And I know around the holidays, the departments and different divisions have a number of different community events. I would like for next year, our goal for 2025 is somehow making it more collaborative or consolidated so that we know where all the different events are happening, and making sure that we are accessing and communicating all of those events to community members, and not just the same community members, so that we're not just preaching to the choir, but getting out there and really doing more outreach to make sure that other neighboring folks who may not have a relationship with the department come to some of these events, because I do think that they're really great, especially for the children around this time of the year. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning. So just wanted to really highlight the folks from the Verdugo Hills High School incident. The administration at the school, intervention, and Foothill Division have been working together to ensure that they address what occurred, engaging the youth involved, the families, and the community surrounding those individuals. So thank you to the officers and the administration for stepping in. It was because of the relations I've had in the community and in my prior work on the phone with folks from Verdugo High School and folks from the intervention agency. And so it seems like everything is flowing the way it's supposed to, and hopefully they're able to address those issues and get in front of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Kalanche.
Thank you. Don't have any specific questions for the chief, but I did want to bring up, to your point, Commissioner Shields, about figuring out how to be more strategic around mental health resources and clinicians. We have started a mental health working group that we, as a result of maybe a couple of meetings ago, we had the mental health folks in the department present. We had a follow-up meeting, and we're assembling folks from different entities. So we had a couple of meetings, and then we have a meeting scheduled in January, and the goal is to come up with some strategic initiatives that we could present back to the commission to increase the available clinicians that may be available for us versus just relying on people applying to become clinicians. So all the way from thinking about how to promote emergency services at the college level as folks are in a BSW or MSW program. So I'll be happy to present that once we get the working group moving a little bit faster.
Thank you.
So that's it.
Thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item number 2, public comment period. Madam Secretary, please announce the first speaker.
The first speaker is Chief Manuelito.
Back and questioning the factor of this Verdugo Hills incident. Isn't it a shame that we continue to say that crime is down, violence is down, but the honest truth, fucking do. America's fucking do. Because we have too much criminal enterprise going on in every motherfucking city. Starting with Los Angeles. And we need this reform of the consent decree in order so that James P. McDonald
can give raises, yes, raises to the beautiful police officers who should have the same, if not percentage, of a raise. And I'm for it. I'm here in support of Donald Trump. And so we need to realign the codes and duty that every officer in here standing behind me to protect me have the same right to a raise this coming year because we got rid of that fucking corrupted criminal from LA, Paul Kokorian. So long, nigger. But the fact that we still have crimes against children, I need to forewarn you. It just doesn't happen in LAPD. It does not happen, Mr. Fabian, in LAUSD where teachers fuck children. It happens everywhere. Everywhere because we're influenced by the media, by the social media, by internet, and by every fucking device that man has brought to ruin and destroy our fucking country. Those fucking Chinese brought COVID. No one wants to admit to it except for Trump. Trump has told your asses we need more ice, ice, baby, ice, ice, baby, so that we can remove the illegal criminals from our state and country. But yet Kamala Harris wants to run for governor. After that scumbag Newsom up there continues to fall behind his mommy Pelosi. And we all know why. I can tell you why. And this is the reason why. I brought a sign, matter of fact, that you will all agree on. You see this sign? You see this sign? Mr. Attorney, is this sign off topic? Los Angeles sucks a dick like
Put the
this.
sign down or step away from the podium.
You're off topic.
And for this reason,
Put the sign down.
yes, and for this reason, you suck a dick too, sir. Stop fucking interfering with my public comment of these 60 fucking seconds, you fucking...
Public comment has been concluded. Thank you. Madam Secretary, please announce the next speaker.
Next, we have caller ending 1264.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hi, yes. What items would you like to speak on?
Yeah, all items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Chief McDonald and the commissioners. I live in PD7 and Foothill Division, and we're not getting any service out here. They're just allowing all kinds of illegal things to go on our sidewalks, on our streets, and nobody is doing anything about it. We are in a very low trust environment with our police department right now. They give a lot of lip service, but they don't give any enforcement service. So it sends the wrong message to the people out there, the criminals who want to hurt us and cause us harm. They do not even identify people in our residential areas who have taken over our sidewalks. How do we know that they're not criminals? How do we know that they're not scoping out our residents so that they can come back and take our things? The police aren't doing the things that they're supposed to do. Also, Chief McDonald, you said that you're going to protect immigrants. I understand that you don't need to enforce immigration law, but to say that you're going to protect, you're there to protect us, to protect everybody, but everybody has to obey the law. Okay, if you're not obeying the law, then you should incur fines or whatever it is that the law applies to that. Otherwise, we're just going to have complete chaos, and that's what we have now in CD7 and Foothill Division. I haven't seen my community policing in I don't know how long, years. I don't know what they do. I'd like to know what they do. I like to know what the police do, because nobody has any trust in calling them anymore. Not only that, but the fact that you have to wait so long. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Either you have to create a better system, or, I mean, that's why you need more police. More police. You say you need more police to do what? What? They're not doing anything now. So I'm kind of confused. I'm going to leave it right there. Thank you for listening to me. Have a nice day.
The next
Madam
speaker.
Secretary, before you announce the next speaker, you two gentlemen, the hand gestures and the puppet are in the camera view. This is your first and only warning. Don't do it again. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Announce the next speaker.
The next speaker is Goat Puppet.
Better man than this, Jim, I told you. So go ahead. Yes, and now we have the significant reports of crime statistics. There's too much crime here, people. Jim's doing a good job. Too many burglars, too many home invasion robberies, too many assaults, Jim. You need to get those cops out there. Remember, police officers, hit and ask questions later. Then we have the personnel strength. We currently sit at under 9,000 cops. Who the fuck wants to work for this department, Jim? Why would you want to wear one of those badges when you could wear a pretty badge in like Malibu or Ventura County, where people walk up to you and say, "Good morning, Sheriff. How are you doing today?" "Well, I'm doing very well. How are your kids' soccer practices going?" But see, remember those good old days, Jim? Now you walk around and you have to have bodyguards and body armor just to go down the street for a fucking coffee. Nobody wants to work in this goddamn fucking department. And your department's strength is further depleted by commute times. You know that 80% of the cops don't even want to live in the city of Los Angeles? They don't want to send their kids to these good fucking schools filled with dirt, filth, drug needles, homeless across the street. Just a complete shithole. That's why you can't keep this up. Now we have, let's see here, cadets, internet crime against children. Yes, children don't belong on the internet. They belong sitting their little heads down with a little tiny dunce cap on, trying to learn the 3 R's. Reading, writing, and robbery. Yes, that's the 3 R's. And then, of course, we get to our public comment, and I'm calling on Sheriff Jim to use his powers as a good officer to stop that bald-headed jackass over there from interfering with our Bain Act rights under the government code and our Brown Act rights.
Sir, can you please pause? Mr. Herman, can you please exit? You have now violated.
Lady, you're not the chair.
Sir,
You're not the chair either.
let her speak or step away from the podium.
Jim, are you going to allow this?
Mr. Herman, you can leave now because you have violated the prior
Don't do it.
prior
Your
warning.
public
Thank you.
comment period has been terminated. Step away from the podium. I'm ordering you out of the room now, sir. Step away from the podium. Both of you are ordered out of the room. Step away from the podium. Sergeant at Arms, please remove this gentleman from the podium.
My First Amendment, Southers. Fuck you.
And you are wasting the 45 minutes for the other people who want to speak today, so stand there as long as you like.
I know Django. I know you're a slaver. I can't help it, Django. How's Candyman? You're working for Candyman. Well, remember, Jim, we all work together to restore the First Amendment. All you gotta do is reach out to me, Jim. We go back a long way. Have a good morning.
Next, we have Mirjam.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, yes. What items would you like to speak on?
All,
Okay, 3 minutes.
thank you. I'm here to address the troubling issue of elder abuse happening inside Scientology Big Blue building on Hollywood Boulevard. Elderly individuals are being isolated from their families, cut off entirely from their relatives who have left the cult. These vulnerable seniors are treated as little as more than living corpses. Their finances are drained, loans are taken out in their names, and their families are left to clean up the devastating financial and emotional aftermath when these individuals pass away. There is a complete disregard for their physical and emotional well being. They do not receive proper medical treatment, and first-hand testimonial has exposed horrifying details of the abuse and neglect. Cases of the elderly being left to die without any dignity, care, or support. The LAPD must stop turning a blind eye to this. Welfare checks must be conducted immediately and independently without Scientology personnel present. These people must be given a chance to speak freely, and families must have the opportunity to hear what their loved ones actually want. No more excuses, no more delays. This department cannot claim to serve and protect while enabling this abuse to continue. The LAPD must launch independent investigations into the atrocities at the Big Blue and take a swift action to hold Scientology accountable. Protect the vulnerable. No organization is above the law. Thank you.
The next speaker is Hassan Tran.
Good morning, Police Chief, Mr. Jim McDonough, and everybody. And today, December 10, my name is Hassan Tran. I'm here today, and it's very important. But I need your help. I always hear every Tuesday. But can you put my name in the U.S. government system? And very important for the government. Thank you. Thank you again.
Next, we have Betty Lay.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
Chief's report, agenda items, public comment.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Okay, first off, I appreciate the chief's report. He gives a very good one. I'm really happy that he's now the new chief. On the agenda items, I support all of the donations listed. And in public comment, I'm hoping that the chief has been able to request an internal review on the investigation from the division in question. And you'll see that the captain and lieutenant in question have done nothing wrong and they should be reinstated. And I hope everyone stays happy and healthy and safe. I yield the rest of my time.
The next speaker, Mr. Sheedy.
All right, good morning. First of all, Chief, I am the first one here to sign up my card, and how I just end up almost my name is not being called. That's just weird. You talked about a lot of big numbers, everything is down, everything is down. It seems like, your first month in the office, everything is down. Seems like you have a good start. But when you go home, let's just say, I advise you spend 10 minutes on television every day you go home before you go to sleep. I can almost guarantee you, KTLA, CBS LA, Fox LA, you are guaranteed to see robbery, rape, follow home, car chase, homicide, rape or something. Literally, you see those. I'm seeing those incidents being more frequent on the social media or TV or computer or whatever. But I understand, you are saying everything is down. It just does not feel like it. Second is, Chief, I wish that LAPD, you have more power and you have more authority. Sometimes I'm witnessing certain issues in this room that doesn't make any sense to me. When dealing with Herman Spindler, the president are saying, hey, you are removed. One warning, they are gone. I think that's kind of okay. But in the other, for the past 1 year or two, when I was here, I witnessed when the president are saying, gentlemen, you are being removed. And then he say that 10 more times. The officer stand better side, doesn't do anything. So I'm feeling that LAPD, you guys are losing their authority. You guys are losing power. When the officer clearly instructed, this gentleman is being removed from this meeting, and then somehow they are saying 10 more times, and then there are certain examples that when the president saying that more than 10 times, and then he say, okay, you don't remove, okay, I'm gonna leave. Like, this meeting is in recess, so nobody leave. So that's the part I don't understand. You guys are having the authority to enforce the law, but all of your officers just stand there, just being a bystander. That's the part I have a hard time to understand. And then another thing I want to ask about, the other day I was trying to ask our officer, can I bring a tennis, can I bring a basketball to play in this commission room? Because I have witnessed many people playing soccer game, and then the officer denied my access. The officer said I'm not allowed to do that, but obviously a lot of many other people, they are allowed to enjoy a soccer match in this under LAPD.
Next, we have Amy's iPhone.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi.
Hi.
All items
Okay,
and general
3 minutes.
comment. Okay. I have to add that you did not mention on your report about an incident that happened on 6724 Hollywood Boulevard, where a person that was protesting the Winter Wonderland event at the testing center was assaulted for informing the public and doing a public service by saying that this is a recruitment event and not really a holiday event. And what happened was he was assaulted by an unidentified security person. I'm not sure which company he was from. He did not have a name tag on. I'm not sure if he was armed, but I do believe this particular company does arm its officers or their security guards. And he was the person stepped onto the public street and assaulted his face. He was hit in the lip, and he suffered a severe concussion. And when he called your dispatch, he told the person where it happened, and they said that, oh, it's his fault. You should know better. You were interrupting a religious service. Now that is unprofessional. As an RN, if I told a patient that it was their fault that they got hurt, that is very unprofessional. I could be fired. How do you not fire someone for doing that? That is like adding on to the second thing, because I guess because you cater to Scientology, they are harmful. You can add this onto your next fail, where the two girls were escaping, those Godinese girls that escaped the blue buildings. You can add that on. He had a concussion when he went to the hospital. He was afraid because every time somebody gets attacked, you go and arrest the person that gets attacked. It's outrageous. It's like, what are you guys doing? It's like you're colluding with this cult and you're not taking care of the person. The person on the end should have said, okay, I'm getting you an ambulance. They could have had a herniation in their brain. They could have had increased intraocular pressure, which they would have needed some intervention immediately. That person could have died and gone into a coma. And you're telling them they should not have been there? What are you going to blame someone that was raped? That is the most, or you were wearing something too skimpy and you deserved it. Place does not do religious services. I'm a victim of the cult. I was married to somebody that is in this cult, and it is not religion. Educate yourselves and know what's going on. It's a shame what's going on in your city. Wake up, stop colluding with them. It's terrible. And the person was running because they were afraid you were going to arrest them for being attacked. And you aren't going after the person that attacked them. Their La Osa Nostra, the Office of Special Affairs, their mafia arm is OSA, and you might as well be dealing with the mafia. That's La Osa Nostra, the La Cosa Nostra 2.0 in your town. That's disgusting. I yield back my time.
The next speaker is Audit LA.
Thank you. Good morning. I am here also
about issues with the Scientology chief and commission. At the day of the parade, okay, I was out front of there, and there was a officer that I recognized as being a police officer, and I asked him if he's LAPD, a police officer. He said, I plead the fifth. Now, mind you, he was armed, and he was not wearing any, he was all dressed in black, not wearing any identifying patches or anything. He finally admitted to being third-party security, but he did, but he's also LAPD. And he has to identify. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he belonged there. I don't know if he's allowed there. I did send an email. It should be in your email as well for the both of you. And because there's something has to be done. And Chief, I want to ask straight out. In May, Ms. Yu, the OIG's office gave myself and 3 other people 1 hour to update them on what's going on, because 3 minutes is not enough. And they graciously gave us that hour, and I believe that they heard us and that things have been happening, from that, because we see a little bit of difference. But from May to now, it's so much more documentation. There's absolute problems with both Northeast Division and Hollywood Division. And I am not anti-LAPD or anti-police officer at all, but I am anti-corruption and anti-collusion. And their vice president, Janet Whelan, who keeps hiring these, guards, whether they're LAPD or whoever the one that assaulted this protester. And mind you, they're upset with that protester because twice they tried to get him through lawfare, through bogus restraining orders and arrest, and none of it worked. And so I believe that was a personal target against him. And it was an assault and a prior restraint because he flashed the flashlight in his eyes, blinding him, and then assaulted him. It's all documented. That's why we document everything. I have the documentation of that officer. I would really like to know if he belonged there, and if not, I would like to know what company he was working for, and why is Janet Whelan, who's on your CPABs for both Northeast and Hollywood Division, why is she allowing unpatched, armed individuals that are not showing who they are, and especially with their LAPD? It's a huge conflict of interest. I am begging you to suspend Janet Whelan from all your CPABs and investigate this matter. We need an investigation, sir. And I am begging you, because you said you're a good listener. I bumped into you randomly. And for me, I don't feel like it was by accident. I know you don't want corruption either. We don't, and no cop, all the good officers at Northeast and Hollywood Division deserve to have a clean division that is not corrupted and influenced by Scientology and cops who are overly involved with Scientology. Thank you.
Can I ask that you provide the information to?
Yes, I will
Thank
provide
you.
any information. I have video footage. I have.
Ma'am, if you could speak to the gentleman in the back, he'll be reaching out to you. Thank you. very
Next, we have Mona M.
Hello, all items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you for the time to speak. Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, Chief. Good morning, Florence Yu. Always attack and never defend. That is the tagline of Scientology. Scientology, they are experts at safe pointing. I have been talking each meeting that I'm allowed to speak about how they are like wolves in sheep's clothing. And I wanted to remind you that our demonstrations are not hate crimes against a religion at all. It is a protest and a show of love for the abuses that are happening in the name of a religion. I would also like to remind you of a recent happening that there was an LA Times article dated April 17th, 2024, which discussed the tactics used by Scientology to interfere with police investigations and the judicial process. The DA's office and several officers reported the incident. It is funny, not funny, that we have not heard about the outcome of this. Has it been whitewashed also? Getting run off the road, houses being broken into, internet and electronics being tampered. These were your own brothers. Don't you think the religion, quote unquote, is targeting protesters too? They feel protesters are anti. They will not stop at giving false claims and swatting spoof calls to stop those that they think are in the way. I also am requesting a meeting with the new chief. Thank you, and I yield back my time.
The next speaker is Jason Reedy.
So I am here today to speak about the horrifying experience me and my child endured at the hands of LAPD during Nathan Hockman's swearing in last Tuesday. Your pigs violently separated me from my 2-year-old child simply because I dared to show up to a protest. The act of standing on a public sidewalk meant forcibly removing me from my child's stroller where he was seated and placing me in handcuffs. And what was I arrested for? Can anyone tell me? Can you tell me, Jim? What was I arrested for? Now, before you rush to defend your boys in blue, let me make something clear. I wasn't trying to enter the event or block the check-in area. I wasn't obstructing anyone from attending. In fact, I wasn't even engaged in protest. I was simply standing on a public sidewalk, a sidewalk that was suddenly and inexplicably closed off the moment our group crossed the crosswalk. Now, all you have to do is watch the various videos online to see how the LAPD harassed the group I was with, while members of the public freely walked past us. People who weren't with our group, curious as to what the event was for, were able to stand at the barriers for as long as they wanted, while I was placed under arrest in under 3 minutes of being on the sidewalk. Everyone except us was allowed on that sidewalk, and why? And before anyone claims that the other members of the public that were there were event attendees, they weren't. Now, while I was detained, your pigs desperately tried to fabricate charges against me. They falsely accused me of kicking one of your officers, a claim that fell apart when the officer, questioned by her superior, couldn't even confirm it happened. And then they wanted to arrest me for disturbing the peace. Even more horrifying, during my detainment, your officers couldn't tell me where my child was. In fact, they asked me where my child was. Imagine that. The people responsible for separating me from my toddler couldn't even account for his whereabouts. And in the end, they didn't even cite me for anything because I didn't break any fucking laws. I was standing on a public sidewalk. First I was arrested, under arrest, then I was detained, and then magically I was released without any type of explanation. Now, my arrest was orchestrated by pig Martin Robles, who executed Grishario Mack at the Crenshaw Mall in 2018. Robles made the call to target me, directing his team to grab me without cause. Now, while others stepped up to take care of my child during this illegal detainment, Robles went as far to threaten to take my child away from those who stepped up to take care of him, accusing them of child endangerment. Now, let's be clear, it was the LAPD that exposed my child to pain, suffering, and danger. And then your media relations division didn't even respond to a LA Times reporter who asked about this mysterious detainment, as they knew it would have made its way into the article that he was writing about the swearing in. And then they gave another statement to another reporter much later in the night. During the permitted event, a group entered the closed-off check-in area, disrupting attendees, which resulted in Reedy being arrested for aggressive behavior, 148 PC, but they released him with a warning. Bullshit. I didn't get a warning. I didn't get nothing. I didn't get any type of fucking explanation. Again, throughout this traumatic ordeal, your pigs repeatedly claimed they had no idea who I was. Well, we don't know who you are. Whoa. But I know that's a lie because I don't need to look any further than Senior Lead Officer and Department Darling Dion Joseph, who admitted on social media that the LAPD sends out alerts to those on the ground about me whenever I enter one of your so-called areas of interest. So why? Why did your officers...
Thank you.
Mr. Can someone also, in the back, Mr. Reedy? Mr. Reedy?
I understand that, but your investigation's not going to do shit. LAPD investigates this stuff all the time, and nothing happens. Okay, so again, you guys are preying on my family. There's no explanation given. So McDonald, would you like to provide an explanation? None of you asked about it during your
Mr. Reedy, your time is up. Thank you.
What I'm saying is that why you're continuing to target my family and escalate on my family, and you think that I won't escalate back.
Mr. Reedy.
Best believe that.
Mr. Reedy.
You do anything to my family, and you'll see the dragon. No, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to talk to this bullshit. It's bullshit.
The next speaker, please, Jonathan Foster.
Hi, I'm going to start yelling in a couple seconds, but we're going to pause for 5 seconds for the bass player of the Grateful Dead. Phil Lesh died on October 25th. 5 seconds. I miss you, Phil. Miss you, Phil. One quick other statement. Al-Assad is gone. That is the end of the Ottoman Empire. Finally took 110 years. So, as I was leaving the last time, it's the John Mack room. It doesn't mean crap. You're black. You don't mean crap either. Who sent the George Floyd Valentine? And I saw there was some kind of meeting, an MOU about it. But if somebody said, you take my temple away with the Jewish star on it, they would have been put right on the street, right out there, right away. And then I made a mistake. It's Deputy Sheriff David March, Deputy Sheriff Jerry Ortiz, shot by 2 illegal aliens. You don't support them. You don't support me. If I was killed, you don't support me either. I don't support you. I don't support you, or nothing that comes out. I don't support her either anymore. I'm trying. And Hill also, so talking about protecting the police department, Hill shot 2 of your police officers. They were shot. Why? Because they themselves not protecting themselves. They don't have head-to-toe body armor on. So head-to-toe body armor doesn't protect a motorcycle crash, a suicide, or unintentional discharge, but it would in this case. And then you just said today some guy had 2 guns and he still shot at them, but they were not protected. And this is bravery and valor. I do agree, but it's not right. I don't have enough time, but I gotta play this.
The tragic death of a motorist who was killed by someone fleeing from law enforcement. Well, I want to understand, really the training, when to initiate a pursuit, when to not initiate, to determine whether or not they were in policy or out of policy, and what consequences come from that. And again, I understand this, and I want to make sure our policies and everything are in place to try to avoid as much as possible these types of tragic outcomes. And I also understand that it can't be a blanket rule that officers can't do any pursuits, because then that gives a green light to everyone to know to run from law enforcement. So I understand all of the balancing that has to happen. And again, I understand I also understand.
Yeah, you understand so much. Okay, what I'd like to say, though, is I apologize to everyone listening for Rasha's lies, because it's just a bunch of lies. Just a bunch of lies. You'd let the border open and let the kids come in, and they're just going to come in and come in and come in. Just like if they were to run from the police, they'd do more of it. You left the border open. You left the border open. You people sick and disgusting child abusers. You got child abuse on there. You are child abuse. You're a child abuser. You're murderers, you people.
The next speaker is Hamed Khan.
Not surprised that Jason Reedy and his family keeps on being targeted. I mean, so people always would talk about, when we would bring up, I remember Mike Downing used to be the head of counterterrorism here, and he started saying that Stop LAPD Spying Coalition thinks that the Red Squads are still active. And the Red Squads are active. They may not be called Red Squads, or they may not be called PDID, but they very much are a part of the anti-terrorism information section and their major crimes division. So your targeting, Jason, is very understandable, that how these psychological psychops operate. And it's just shameful that the LAPD continues, that if it's not, and why we are extremely concerned is because we even released a report back in 2018, and the title is Before the Bullet Hits the Body, that the conditions on the ground are being set up, that things escalate, and within a few seconds a gun comes out and somebody gets killed. And that's what we are heading towards. This is exactly how these things are manipulated, and that's what concerns us, that the child is watching his parent being violently taken down, and then not even being charged, just because to intimidate, to harass, to threaten, to get a response from him, and then make a case to go after him. This ain't anything out of may seem something out of a movie, but this is a reality, because this is how the LAPD operates. The other thing I want to just bring up is that there's 4 members of the commission, and the city council just passed and finalized that ordinance on supposedly the sanctuary city. Did either one of you provide any information and the details of all the information exchange that happens, which is baked in? Because I'm looking at this section, Section 19.192, confidentiality and protection of city data, it says, yada, 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 USC 1373, that no city personnel should provide access to data. City personnel don't have to pick up the phone. They don't have to bring a file to ICE. The information exchange continues to happen. What about programs that are on autopilot? What about suspicious activity reporting program that immediately things are reported to JRIC, Joint Regional Information? And many a times in your own assessment, and the IG does the audit, we're down to about 28 from 2,500 back in 2010. We're down to 28. So now you still have programs very much there. What about TVTP or PATH program that the LAPD has dealing with youth? So many other license plate readers. So you have information sharing environment through your record management systems, through law enforcement information exchange programs, through Joint Regional Intelligence Center, where information is baked in. It's on autopilot. It doesn't require somebody to pick up the phone or somebody needs to be on ICE hold, because everybody would be on ICE hold. That's how the information exchange happens, and that's the failure of this body to be a representative of the people and provide the information.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Matios Kadei.
My name is Matias with the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. On Hamid's point about the continued existence of red squads, the LAPD has openly talked about, post-2020, their need for expansion and funding for their shadow teams, which are uniform and undercover police meant to infiltrate protests. So there is, even beyond these programmatic implementations, there's a culture of suppressing dissent and quashing protests in this city that we see manifest itself all the time. And these are targeting ideologies that bolster support for oppressed people. So anti-police protests, protests in support of Palestinians, of Muslim communities. And on a national level, this is manifesting as the creation of frameworks and even a culture that enforces the suppression of these ideologies. And, these frameworks by the DHS have been CVE, Countering Violent Extremism, Targeted Violence and Terrorism Prevention, as Hamid just talked about, or Errol Southers is kind of like grifty knockoff called Homegrown Violent Extremism that didn't really take off. And on a local level, there are even efforts to just criminalize protests more broadly. And it's already suppressed on the way we're talking about. Just recently, an LA Can protester, one of a long line, was targeted, brutalized, and arrested. And I'm kind of holding these realities, right? This culture of violence in the face of a upcoming, more explicitly fascist administration. Not to say that, the alternative would have been much better. And I'm thinking about all these instances of explicit violence that we've seen that have been covered up, right? We've seen this July 2022 cover-up of Hollywood officers stomping on a subdued and apprehended man that Film the Police documented on his Twitter page. The more recent cover-up of 28-year-old Alexander Mitchell getting punched in the face while handcuffed. And then, of course, there's Earl Roots in 2023, who was, the department stated his hospitalization was due to a complaint of having asthma, but in truth, he was punched in the chest by LAPD officers. That came to light months later. And so in this context of continued kind of cover-up and rampant police violence, and I'm sure time will shine light on how McDonnell continues this series of cover-ups for the LAPD. I know you've done your fair share for the Sheriff's Department. This whole notion, right, of a sanctuary city is a joke. It truly, like the whole notion that a department will abide by policies that will, keep people safe requires a detachment from reality. We already see how the department doesn't abide by policies. It's the same kind of magical thinking that would insist that this body, right, that's headed up by a former cop who literally advocated for racial profiling, would hold this department to those standards or to those policies. And so just to say this is a culture of violence, all these policies really do is sanitize this department's violence and expand their resources and allow them to continue hurting people. And we'll likely hear about another cover-up in the next few months. And the community won't be surprised. But just know over time, this body is being delegitimized. People understand what policing is. Your own surveys reflect that. Thank you.
The next card is for DOA.
I'm a defender of ants. Been here before. I've been at gunpoint at the Blue Building 3 times. I've been at gunpoint at La Poubelle once. Shotguns pointed at me, helicopters all 4 times. I've been at gunpoint on Hollywood Boulevard by LAP Hollywood Division. So that's 2 Hollywood Divisions, 3 gunpoints at Northeast Division. I've been at gunpoint in Malibu County Sheriff's at gunpoint. I've been at gunpoint at Ventura PD. I've been at gunpoint at San Luis Obispo. Both my phones were confiscated without warrant. I've been at gunpoint in San Francisco. Officer Rand called San Francisco and said that I've been charged with flashing guns. No crime of flashing guns. He said, contact Scientology Security. That's Officer Rand, Hollywood Division. Officer Hall, Hollywood Division, has had both my phones, a $1,300 phone, a $1,000 computer, and my fucking fur coat since February. An unlawful arrest where I did 6 days in LA County, no fucking mayonnaise on my fucking bologna sandwich. What the fuck? At least in West Virginia, hillbilly ass motherfuckers, they give me some mayonnaise in there. Northeast Division, I went in to fucking do a goddamn report about the swattings, about being at gunpoint. Gomez said that it went down from major crimes to her. She put out my phone number, where my phone number was in docs by 911. I made a complaint about her. Guess what happened? She fucking did a warrant to get both my other 2 phones, 2 $1,300 phones. The LAPD is in possession of 4 of my fucking phones, a computer and my fur coat. There's 6 disturbing a religious meeting with the city attorney right now because I used a megaphone. But there's protesters in Kaiser with a megaphone. No one's fucking doing shit. But you put me in the cage twice for that. Twice! And who's the fucking SWAT? What is LAPD's #1 suspect in the swatting? It's fucking me. What kind of fucking retards are you? I'm gonna fucking end up dead. You fucking retards. I am the swatting victim. Why the fuck would I come in here and tell on myself, you stupid fucks? I got the CAD reports and the phone reports saying it's security for Scientology. And I'm talking about those 2 girls that tried to escape at the Blue Building. Do something. I don't want to end up fucking dead.
The final speaker, Raul Montes. Or Macias.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Chief McDonald. Let me try to hold this here together. Yes, the late Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy once said the following: tolerating organized crime promotes the cheap philosophy that everything is a racket. It promotes cynicism amongst adults. It contributes to the confusion of the young and to the increase of juvenile delinquency. Well, I have to say that the Northeast Division is the epitome of organized crime. On October 21st, and President Southers, I appeal to you, sir, to identify this woman. At the Detective Bureau, she's obese, disgusting Latina woman who dumped me in Mission Community Hospital for evaluation. I simply went there to find out when are they going to arrest blue-eyed Kellen Feely, I believe his name, who went after me with a knife down the street, and Gonzalez, an officer, and Hakaris, I believe his name, refused to arrest him. Gonzalez falsified his card. He said it happened 12 hours before. He said it happened at 3:30 in the afternoon. This event happened at 3:30 in the morning. I believe that's the hour difference there. He refused to arrest him. He says, Raul, go back upstairs and everything's going to be all right. Are you out of your mind, sir? This guy pulled a knife out of the kitchen. Now, my landlady, Young Sao Chai, who I've been discussing her abuse from Sean Evan Buer, witnessed this, but she was scared to death to throw him out. Now, Callan, I believe, is dead because I saw his assault in South Pasadena. They refused to look into this. The captain said to me, what do you want me to do, Raul? I said, you idiot, I want you to arrest the Asian cop that was pursuing him and is trying to cover up this event, okay? Because this gets a little convoluted, but if I can just get back to this lady or this woman here, that dumped me into this Mission Community Hospital because I've been appearing here and allowing you to know exactly what they're doing. They're denying checks, welfare checks. They deny you to see a watch commander. They are thugs. You have Cortez who comes out and puts the strobe right in my face when I ask for a welfare check. And he says, I want to keep an eye on you, Raul. That kind of stuff, intimidation. Now, this woman, I want identified. I want her demoted. I want her to kick her ass out of that job because she's an enforcer. She's a thug. And I was on the phone with Estrada regarding this Asian fellow that showed up at Young South Chai's home who has, I believe, a stolen car, who might have killed Sean Evan Buer. He's driving his car, I believe. And she ripped the phone out of his hand because Estrada's looking into this whole matter, supposedly with adult services. And she ripped the phone and she says, I'm hanging up this phone, Raul, and slammed the phone on me. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no other speakers, sir.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We will now move on to agenda item number 3, consent agenda items. Today, we have items A through F. Are there any comments or questions on any of the items? And I'll go by Commissioner. Vice President Shields?
None for me, thank you.
Commissioner Calanche?
None, thank you.
Okay. And Commissioner Garcia?
None, thank you.
Having heard that there are none, I would move that we adopt the recommendation for board action for consent agenda items 3A through F. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item number 4, regular agenda items. Item 4A is a verbal presentation relative to vehicle pursuits. And I believe I have Chief Reyna and company. Chief, and I'll give you, if you wouldn't mind, after you're seated, go ahead and introduce everyone who's seated with you today. Thank you.
We're waiting for Chief Graham, but I think we're gonna have to start without him. He'll join us.
Sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Chief McDonald, Mr. Sibley, and our Inspector General. I'd like to introduce Sergeant Vega from Training Division, Sergeant Ramos from Traffic Group, and Captain Wang, who oversees our Training Division and in-service section. So today we're gonna present on our vehicle pursuit policy and an overview. And Chief Donnie Green. So at this time, I'm just gonna go ahead and turn over to Sergeant Vega, who's gonna start on that.
Good morning, members of the board.
Morning.
Good morning, members of the board and police commissioners, and good morning, Chief. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. I look forward to providing some insight and answering any questions you may have on vehicle pursuits, the balance test, and the products that have been evaluated by the department safely to terminate pursuits. My name is Sergeant Edgar Vega, and I'm assigned to Training Division as the officer in charge of the Emergency Vehicle Operations Course, also referred to as EVOC. Our unit oversees all driver training needs for the department, including recruit training, in-service personnel, reserve officers, and civilian personnel operating police or city vehicles in an official capacity. The Los Angeles Police Academy EVOC program consists of 40 hours. The 40 hours include approximately 15 hours of lectures, 2 hours in driving simulators, and 23 hours of practical behind-the-wheel training. And topics include relevant laws, department policies, safe driving practices, driving dynamics, and vehicle control techniques. The decision to initiate a pursuit is a multifaceted event governed by law, department policies, and self-awareness. First and foremost, an officer's actions must be guided and governed by legal statutes that would allow or authorize illegal detention or arrest. State law allows officers to pursue for any violations of the law officers identify. Following that, department policy further guides officers in decision-making by defining procedures while reinforcing and/or refining safety considerations and practices. The department's policy restricts officers from initiating a pursuit for infractions, misdemeanor evading, including failure to yield, or reckless driving in response to enforcement action taken by department personnel. When in pursuit or to begin a pursuit, officers apply the balance test when deciding to initiate, continue, or terminate a pursuit. The balance test can be summarized as the legal need to apprehend versus the risk to all parties involved, including the public, also referred to as risk versus reward. Key considerations of the balance test include the potential injury risk to the public, officers and suspects, excessive speeds beyond the flow of traffic, disruptions to vehicular or pedestrian traffic, likelihood of apprehending the suspect later, traffic and pedestrian density, weather and visibility conditions, officers' familiarity with the area, and any potential restrictions to radio communications. The severity of the alleged crime is another factor to be considered to determine whether to initiate, continue, or terminate any vehicle pursuit. Additionally, officers and supervisors involved in a vehicle pursuit will be held accountable for pursuit-related decisions, ensuring adherence to policy and safety consideration. This includes the continuation of a pursuit when circumstances indicate it should have been terminated. The air units are a pivotal tool during pursuits. Absent exigent circumstances, the air unit shall assume responsibility for tracking a suspect's vehicle and manage the pursuit broadcast. Authorized units shall continue the code through response, but should slow down, maintain a safe distance, and reduce visibility to a safe. Tracking is a law enforcement tool intended to encourage the fleeing suspect to slow down or voluntarily terminate the pursuit. If tracking does not produce the desired results, the incident commander of the pursuit must evaluate the situation using the balance test to determine to re-engage or terminate that pursuit. Supervisor approval is required for re-engagement absent exigent circumstances. The department mandates ongoing vehicle pursuit policy training, the state mandated annual online vehicle pursuit policy training, and the post-mandated biannual slow speed driving training. Additional pursuit policy training is covered in the monthly field training officer schools and the monthly restoration class, both taught by EVOC personnel. Pursuit policy and procedures are also regularly discussed at the divisional roll calls. The department teaches two primary vehicle intervention techniques: the pursuit intervention technique, also known as PIT, and the tire deflation device under the trade name of stop stick. Policy limits the use of PIT to 35 miles per hour or less, and 3 or more police vehicles are required for this technique. The tire deflation device deployment is restricted by policy to vehicles traveling at 65 miles per hour or less, and it is deployed by units not directly involved with the pursuit. Supervisor approval is required for both techniques. The EVOC unit continually seeks out new products to improve apprehension and safety. The unit has looked into and evaluated multiple new technologies with regards to pursuit mitigation and termination. All these technologies are assessed with consideration given to effectiveness, usability, safety, and training requirements, as well as fiscal costs, both in purchase and upkeep. The following are the 3 termination devices the EVOC unit has evaluated. We have the Grappler, Star Chase, and Mobile Spike. The Grappler is a device that is mounted to the frame of a vehicle and extends 2 arms forward with a net to capture and bind the rear wheel of the fleeing suspect. It has been shown to be very effective. Downsides are the requirements to be very close to the suspect, and it is currently only available for vehicles using body-on-frame design. Our fleet of Ford Explorers are unibody construction, and the Grappler is not so for these vehicles. The company is currently working on adapting their product to unibody chassis designs. Star Chase is a mobile tracking device launched via compressed air from the patrol vehicle that adheres to the suspect's vehicle. Once deployed, the device begins sending GPS data for the purpose of remote tracking via an app. Star Chase also requires close proximity for deployment. Additional concerns were legality of warrantless extended tracking of individuals, potential liabilities of launch projectiles striking unintended targets, and highly yearly subscription costs for the tracking services. Mobile Spike is a tire deflation device mounted to the front of a patrol vehicle that has an extended arm projecting from the side. This arm has spikes that are then placed in front of the suspect's tire, at which point the officer falls back, allowing the suspects to drive over the spikes and deflating the tire, at which point the arm then retracts back into its housing. Close proximity is required for deployment, and the device can only be deployed from a single side of the patrol vehicle, limiting approach positioning. To date, the department has not deployed these technologies to field testing. And thank you for your time. I will now turn the discussion over to Sergeant Ramos for the pursuit review segment.
Good morning, President Dr. Struthers, Vice President Shields, Chief of Police McDonald. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Sergeant Arturo Ramos. I'm the officer in charge of the Pursuit Review Unit. And my presentation will focus on the pursuit review process and administrative review process of vehicle pursuits, specifically how officers' actions during a pursuit are evaluated and classified. So just to give you an overview of what the Pursuit Review Unit does, we review approximately 950 to 1,000 pursuits per year. Our main focus is to provide a centralized review process that provides consistency throughout the department and the interpretation and implementation of the pursuit policy. So I'll just get into the overview. In 2019, the department changed its pursuit policy, Special Order Number 5, into 2 different categories, pursuit initiation and involvement pursuit tactics. So I'll go into how the pursuit is reviewed. The pursuit starts off by a comprehensive report by a field supervisor, does facts finding, gathers all information, presents it to the watch commander, and get a comprehensive report to the watch commander that eventually goes out to the commanding officer. The first category that we categorize is pursuit initiation. The first step is determining whether the pursuit was initiated within department policy. Now, this evaluation is only for the primary unit who starts the pursuit only. Just like Sergeant Vega identified, our pursuit policy allows officers to chase misdemeanors, felonies, and DUI suspects. We're not allowed to pursue based only on infraction, failure to yield, or any reckless driving that's from enforcement action. Two adjudications can come out of this. It's either out of policy or in policy. Some of that out of policy, some main categories out of policy is not initiating at proper time, not using vehicle equipment, lights and sirens, and not following those of the road. A very small segment of our adjudications are in the initiation for out of policy. As far as for the training and discipline part of it, for initiation, you go from formal training at the command level or at the EVOC, a notice to correct, or up to 128. The second portion of this evaluation part is the involvement pursuit tactics. So in this category, what we're trying to evaluate is assess the actions of officers during a pursuit, focusing on their roles as a primary, secondary, or subsequent unit. The difference between this category is that everybody in a pursuit gets adjudication, whereas only an initiation was only the primary unit. So just to give you an idea, so if there was 5 units in a pursuit, every single person in that car, regardless if you're in the back seat of that 5th car, gets an adjudication. Some of the key elements that we're looking for in this adjudication is the vehicle pursuit procedures, ensuring adherence to established pursuit policies and procedures. Another one is that we take very seriously is driver responsibility for the officers, following the rules of the road, driving with due regard, and Code 3 driving. Another aspect that we look at is control of vehicle pursuit. The decision to continue or terminate, which is the balance test with Sergeant, went over through extensively, basically evaluating whether the risk versus reward justifies the seriousness of the offense and the circumstances. Vehicle pursuit driving tactics, using proper driving techniques, and eventually post-pursuit tactics. And in post-pursuit tactics is exercising discipline, control, and safe tactics at the termination point, apprehension of suspects, and keeping the public safe. The supervisor role is also adjudicated if they join physically, but they're also evaluated. They oversee the pursuit, making sure they have officers are following pursuit policy and following guidelines, and provide manager oversight throughout pursuit from start to finish. Same way as initiation, adjudication would be administrative approval, and they get training if there's a insignificant deviation from the policy. Or it could be an administrative disapproval. In administrative disapproval, the involvement substantially deviated from policy and procedure without any justification during the pursuit. And same with initiation, the discipline is either formal training, a notice to correct deficiency, or a personnel complaint. Once this report is completed, it gets submitted to the commanding officer of the officer. The area division commanding officer is responsible for reviewing all copies of the report, audio, video footage related to the pursuit, and they provide the first out of 3 adjudications. Once the commanding officer makes adjudication, it is forwarded to the officer's bureau, and the bureau then conducts their own review, provides the second level of adjudication, and if they have any differences within the command, area command, they properly document in the form of a military endorsing adjudication. That report is then forwarded to the department traffic coordinator, and that goes to traffic group. The final class, and that rests with its final the adjudication classification and traffic group has the authority to override any prior recommendations. Once the final adjudication by traffic group is completed, traffic group completes a correspondence and advises the officers and their command of the final adjudication. So one of the things, when a pursuit is identified as administrative disapproval, like I mentioned before, the formal training is one of the things. It goes to either through the division or EVOC, notice to correct, or personnel complaint. Any directed training must be completed within 90 days in our interdepartment LMS training and documented as such. In closing, the vehicle pursuit review process ensures accountability, adherence to department policy with a clear structure for adjudication, training, and discipline action when necessary. This process is vital for officer safety, public safety, and identifies risks and maintains integrity and professionalism of our police department. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the great presentation. So just wanted to give that brief overview of the training that's involved, the ongoing training that we have in our in-service section, and then obviously the very, very detailed pursuit review process that we have going through all different levels and all different reviews, obviously going to traffic group for that final adjudication. So you can see it's very in-depth and very involved in our process. So.
Thank you, Chief. I'll go ahead and start our questions or comments, if I may. So where we have a situation and air support picks up that unit, what's the expectation for the ground units at that time once air support clearly has line of sight on the vehicle that's being pursued?
The air support will
take that microphone. Yep.
Once the air support's above, he lets the units know that he's available for tracking. At this point, the units on the ground will continue code 3, which means lights and siren, back off a distance where hopefully the suspect cannot see him. The air support will continue broadcasting the direction of travel of the fleeing person, and the ground units will just lay back until they either decide once again to use the balance test to either re-engage in the pursuit or terminate the pursuit. And that all comes down to the balance test, sir. That's going to be decided by the supervisor of the pursuit, the incident commander.
Except for those exigent circumstances, could be, for example, you have a shooting suspect who just committed a violent crime against multiple people. May not be that where we want to track that suspect to allow them to get into a mall or get into a shopping center or a home or something. So we want to stay with that pursuit, but keeping in mind that balance test also. So even though it may be justified to stay in that pursuit and not track, we've seen it where the supervision will make that decision to track or back off to try to slow that down with that balance test, even though it's a major public safety issue of trying to apprehend that suspect based on the nature of the crime.
Thank you. So considering all the elements that might terminate a pursuit, who's authorized to terminate a pursuit? And specifically what I'm asking for is if the pursuing unit, that officer that's driving that shop, decides it's too dangerous, can they terminate that pursuit?
For sure, sir. Yes.
Okay.
The primary unit, the supervisor, or even the watch commander at the divisional level can do it if he has visible view of this pursuit, either through television or the new. I think you could the live streaming that Pursuit Review could probably discuss better.
And since everybody gets an adjudication, everybody's accountable for the continuance of that pursuit. So even if you're the third car and you feel that this pursuit has gone too too far and going too fast or going through intersections fast and thinks that the public's at risk or the officer at risk, anybody in that pursuit can terminate pursuit.
Okay. My last question is probably an easy one, I hope. So failure to yield, particularly pursuant to an infraction which we're not stopping for, but we've got an infraction that creates a hazard. Say it's a surfboard sticking out of the driver's side window more than 6 inches, which is a violation. And the unit decides to warn that person, they fail to yield. What are we doing?
You don't pursue him. He goes, you put out you could put out the information out for other units in the area in case this individual commits other crimes. But at this point, we could fill out a report and see if you have any follow-up later on by a detective or even by us. Do maybe follow-ups for a license plate or any information we may have. But at that point, we won't pursue that, sir.
Okay.
For the infraction.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Vice President Shields.
Thank you, and I will say that thank you for the presentation, and this has been very helpful, and I think that this will likely be the beginning of more conversations to come, because this is a very kind of, I would say, high priority, at least in my mind, in terms of what the department does, and it's been very helpful just to know the scope that you are dealing with. Is it right you had about 950 to 1,000 pursuits in a year?
On the average, yes.
On the average year. That's a significant amount, and we only hear about, 1 or 2 or 3 a year. So that's something that we need to kind of understand, and especially when we're talking about the risk reward, I think it would be helpful kind of for future information for us to have a sense of that. The 950 to 1,000, what are the crimes that they are involved in? Is this, shooting suspects, or how much of them are auto theft? Because we usually hear about the auto theft ones, and basically people saying, well, look, we shouldn't even be chasing those folks. So it'd be nice to kind of, when we're really looking at what the risk reward is as a global thing, before we look at the current policy to say, should it be tweaked, should it be changed? I'd like to have more data, because there are other departments that are putting forward certain restrictions, like you're never going to be able to chase anyone with, that's an auto violation or a stolen vehicle, right? I'd like to know what our prior numbers have been, how many of them are stolen vehicles, what have those resulted in, how many have them completed safely, nothing has occurred, and these people had wants and warrants and other types of, criminal history. That tells us how much, if we put a restriction on a policy, that there may be unintended consequences, right? So I always want to know much of the facts before we evaluate whether or not to make any changes to the existing policy. So thank you for that. And really, I was blown away by the number that you provided. I had no idea that the department had so many of them. And it's good to hear that we don't hear about the vast, vast majority of them, other than, of course, the KTLA and other news picking them up on occasion. I had questions about the training that currently exists. You mentioned that the recruiting officers get about 40 hours.
Yes.
How about in service or ongoing? Is there?
We do have the yearly, as far as pursuit policy training, policy itself, we do have the yearly post required policy mandated. And then we also, the post biannual slow speed driving, which covers policy, and the annual online policy that every officer needs to complete every year on the department. As far as us, like Officer Ramos said, if these individuals that they feel they need other training because of result of pursuit, most of them come to us, and we either take them on the track, conduct the training, or we also go pursue policy as well with the actual hands-on training on the track.
Okay.
We do attend the monthly FTO school, and we do have restorations every month of individuals that are coming back to the job that have to go through our process, and same thing, cover the policy as well.
And that's helpful in terms of behind the wheel driving. How many hours would you say is a
It's
typical?
normally when they come back, and the deficiencies are identified, we'll try and stick to that. So it's between an hour and 2 hours. And then another maybe an hour and 2 hours of actual policy review and procedures.
The one thing I would want to know, this is a 2025 issue as opposed to the rest of 2024, but just how does particularly the number of hours our recruits are going through behind the wheel, how does that compare to either other departments or even more importantly, like other first responders? I'm thinking of the fire department paramedics who are going through red lights and having to navigate that safely on a consistent basis. I'd love to know what are our partners in the other part of the city family doing in terms of, comparing that, because I think when officers are going code 3 through intersections, it's one of the most dangerous things, both for the public and themselves. And I want to make sure that we're putting enough time. And if, firefighters can do it and the ambulances can do it safely, let's see if we're on par with that, unless someone has already done that comparison. Do you know?
We have not done that comparison with the fire department or any other first responders that are going code 3 in the city or other agencies.
I think given that the increase in both traffic accidents resulting in tragedies as well as these types of tragedies that come out of pursuits. And again, I understand we can only control what the officers is. A lot of the police pursuits where there's been tragedy, it's the other vehicle who's injuring individuals. So I understand that, but let's make sure that our officers are doing everything that they can and we're best preparing them for this situation. One last thing about the products, and I think at the end you mentioned about the live streaming, because it's not a product per se, but that could potentially help with slowing down the process or having an independent eyes on the situation. Can you talk a little bit about what the live streaming means?
So live streaming, we've had it since February of this year. So it gives the watch commander the ability to see a pursuit live. So it takes a little effort sometimes it takes a while to log in, especially when most of our pursuits are under 2 minutes. So logging in, making sure that you're reviewing the right unit takes a little bit of effort and coordination. But it gives a manager oversight for a watch commander to either let the pursuit continue or terminate it based on what they're seeing and hearing. In the past, the watch commanders have always used the radio to listen in on a pursuit, but now they have the ability to live stream it. So it gives us an extra tool to make a decision whether it's either allow the pursuit to continue or terminate. As of right now, I would say 75% of the department has already been trained in live streaming through the LMS. What they do is they log in to get the training and ensure that they know how to log into it. As of right now, it's only restricted to watch commanders and supervisors, so we try to minimize how many people can watch it, and it's just for watch commanders only. It's not made, the tool is not made for a watch commander to critique the driving, and it's basically sold for pursuits only.
Thank you. Commissioner Kalanche.
Thank you so much. I think we have a lot of questions that are surfacing just based on the presentation. So I appreciate the information. I think one of our biggest concerns is, safety for our officers and the public, right? So pursuits sometimes do end up in tragic situations. So I'm wondering what we're doing. A lot of it is adrenaline, right? When there is a circumstance that leads to a pursuit, usually we're in this space of trying to apprehend or stop whatever situation is happening that is a violation of law. What do we do to train officers to take a step back? Everything's happening so fast, but what we're trying to avoid is a tragic situation. And I know that the majority of I'm assuming that the majority of our pursuits don't end up in tragedy, just, because we hear, when they do. So how do we work with officers on patrol to ensure that they're not driven by adrenaline? So that's one. And then the other question is, I'll let you answer that because they're kind of not related. So I'll let you answer that one first.
So the overview of that in the recruit training, the discussions, Sergeant Vega's team having those discussions when that happens, just like in foot pursuits also, take that breath, catch yourself, a key word for you to say, something to remind yourself of a slowdown, because you're going to get that adrenaline pump and want to make sure you're in control of what you're doing. That's in the academy. Also in the in-service side, whether it's restoration training, directed training, or roll call training calendar has that. There's discussions in roll call. Our training coordinators at the divisions have these conversations, debriefs after pursuits, having those conversations about when that initiation happens to take that breath, slow down, and not jump fast, not have that adrenaline pump that's interfering with your judgment and what you're doing in that first few seconds of that pursuit. So it is discussed on the in-service side in different forums and different ways, but I want to hand the mic over to Captain Graham, who's going to discuss that a little bit.
Oh, wow, you demoted
Chief Graham.
Or Chief Graham, I'm sorry. Sorry.
That's my COA president right
Yes, there you go. I apologize.
I got you.
So, thank you, Commissioner. We had the exact same thought. In the last 20 years, the two major changes in the strategic thinking about pursuits has come in the initiation of the pursuit and in the introduction of tracking. But the fight or flight adrenaline piece, I discussed this with Dr. Dorian about what prompts do we have for our officers to get them to break out of that amygdala decision-making and into the cognitive decision-making that I think is what's necessary to make a balanced test decision. Because 7 factors is a lot of things to consider when you're dealing with a real-world second-by-second situation. So we convened a working group at the Police Museum and brought together BSS, Air Support, Training, Metropolitan Division, and the training coordinators from the 4 divisions in each bureau that represent the highest number of pursuits over the last 3 years. And we started to talk about the evolution of pursuit tactics. When I came on the job, there was no such thing as containment mode versus apprehension mode for pursuits. But we've evolved understanding that containment mode is safer, it's more effective, and it generates better outcomes. So the question I posed to the group is to come up with the next generation of pursuit tactic evolution that would bring us the same outcomes. So I think one of the things that we're doing, that we want to do, is test the safeguards that we have now. How effective are the initiations? I think it's very relevant that you bring up the data point, because the data point will tell us how to make those decisions. Because if you look at what the vehicle code will permit and what LAPD policy is, all those differentiations between the two are the safeguards that LAPD has put into place to make pursuits safer for the officers, for the community, and for the suspect. And so evaluation of the effectiveness of the safeguards that we have in place is step 1. But then I think step 2 is that take that evolution to another level. What would containment mode in a vehicle pursuit look like? What strategically can we do? Maybe the primary unit that finds the bad guy and initiates the pursuit shouldn't be the one that carries out the pursuit because they're emotionally involved in that. And maybe maybe we switch out as soon as there's a unit that's available, so to lower that adrenaline level. Maybe the act of going through one additional radio step, like requesting permission, especially in cases of a stolen vehicle, which would then prompt a supervisory response of or something to the effect of, why do you want to chase this particular individual? And get those officers out of that fight or flight mode and into the balance test mode of, I believe that I need to apprehend this individual because, which is a much more cognitive decision-making process than the amygdala decision-making process. So as the commander and I have discussed, this is our goal for 2025, is to present to the chief and ultimately to you a series of recommendations for changing the tactics of pursuits. I think that I echo chiefs of the past saying it is a dangerous prospect to live in a city where we know the police are not going to chase the bad guy. Mm-hmm. And so the preservation of that tool at the same time maximizing the safety for the community, for our officers, and for the suspects themselves, is the goal.
That's perfect. Well, one, I think that Commissioner Shields would be very interested in this, but wondering, like, I think that a commissioner should be part of the working group so that we can really understand, what the recommendations are, so we don't hear them for the first time when they're presented to us. I have a question about, just to follow up, containment versus apprehension. Can you just explain those in as far as pursuit?
Well, as far as a foot pursuit is concerned, where the initiation of a foot pursuit might be to grab the suspect within the first several steps of the pursuit. Once it gets beyond that point, for whatever reason, and it could be the suspect's familiarity with the terrain, it could be the physical conditioning difference between the suspect and the officer, but a variety of different reasons why that suspect is outpacing the officers, to then move from the, I just got to go get that guy, into bringing in additional resources and starting the intercommunication to create a perimeter around a suspect, contain that suspect, and then bring in whatever resources are necessary to apprehend him. It's safer, and it goes to the mantra that we have been talking about in de-escalation for years now, which is slow it down.
So in a vehicle pursuit, you would apply the same,
We would, yes, we have to figure out how could we apply the same principle to a vehicle pursuit, right? And so when tracking works, it is a sort of containment mode for the for vehicle pursuit. Because if the goal of tracking is attained, meaning the officers drop back, the airship is covering the suspect, and he stops his erratic and dangerous behavior, then we've achieved our goal, right? But if that doesn't occur, then what becomes the next step, and how do we contain this individual's continued dangerous movement, but with a containment process? And I don't know the answer. This is why there are much smarter people than me. They're actually working in black and whites every day, and they understand the dynamic, even the new cars, and how that would play into how that works. So this is what we want to explore in 2025.
that would be great. And then my last question is, as we're talking about data, I'm actually very curious to know, like, what the average age, or like what the data is saying about the age of those that we end up pursuing or chasing. And I'm just curious. So if off the top you know some data, but if you don't, then I think it would be really interesting to know.
If anybody does, it's Sergeant Ramos.
We do track that data. I don't have that with me right now, but
I just think it would be interesting because I think that there's an opportunity for also, I'm assuming that it's younger folks. That's just an assumption. But if that assumption is accurate, I think there's opportunities for PSAs, for, other ways to prevent, pursuits. Because I think ultimately that's what we want, because we can't control what drivers are doing, right? What, the person that is being pursued does. So I think any preventative efforts, I think, would be helpful. But yeah, I would just be interested in knowing that.
I don't think we track the age, but I know we do track the age. I don't have that, but off the top of my head, I know that prior offenders, people who have convictions. For
That
vehicle
makes
thefts
sense.
are the most reoccurring people we pursue.
Interesting. Okay.
So because of the lag time that it takes to adjudicate pursuits, if I may be so bold to suggest we can come back here in the early spring, because by then all of the 2024 pursuits should have been adjudicated by that point, and present a 2024 in review with all the data regarding the 2024 pursuits.
Thank you. And I just want to say that I did get an opportunity to go to your track and drive with instructors. That was interesting. I thought I knew how I would, drive on a track, but there's different ways that you can
I
drive.
would highly recommend for all of you guys to
Yeah.
come down.
Yeah, so it was really interesting. Yeah, I got to drive really, really fast and not be stopped. No, just kidding.
And
But thank
if
you
I-
for that. So I know how difficult it is. Yeah, I know how difficult it is, yes.
And just as a distinction to a comment that Commissioner Shields made a little while earlier, there is a difference between Code 3 driving and pursuit driving, right? And while there might be similarities in what's the coverage of the vehicle code, the tactics are different, the mindset is different. And so there are opportunities to be gained in looking at the data from the fire department or other Code 3 responses, but that would be comparative to safety when it goes to Code 3 response versus a pursuit.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
Yeah, thank you all for the presentation. Thank you, Chief, for referencing and dropping some ideas on how we can evolve pursuits and the tactics behind it. I want to just reiterate the request from Commissioner Shields about data. I think we would really like to see a robust set of data, not just for the policy purposes, very important for that, but also to understand where our investments should be in terms of investing in the tactics or the equipment behind or parallel to those tactics. I'd also, regarding the live streaming, is that, and the answer is yes, as technology evolves, but how do we get to a place where there is less login lag time? And can we explore what that would look like? And then the question is, does live stream only for the lead vehicle, or for can it toggle between the other vehicles involved in the pursuit?
We have been working with our partners at Axon, and we have identified some issues that they've corrected for us. One of the things was login, the speed of the login. They did correct it, so it has sped up. There are minor issues that we want to correct, and we're working with them. But sometimes it's the technology that they have to get through. But Axon's been very responsive to our needs. And so far, I think to speed it up, we allow the supervisors at every division to log in and test it out, and say, hey, you know what, test it out. So we try to limit it to the people who are viewing pursuits, but we did allow our supervisors just go ahead and log in, test it out, because during a pursuit, we don't want to be the first time you're logging in. So it has been improved. It has improved. I've talked to people at the divisions, and they've said the process is improved. There is some things we have to get over, but we're working in the right direction for that.
Okay, thank you. And similar to Commissioner Souther's example, at what point, so using that as an example, at what point is an attempted contact considered a pursuit?
Can you repeat that?
So you go to pull someone over and they continue fleeing at 10 miles per hour. Like, at what point is it defined a pursuit where you have to say, oh, they're actually fleeing versus they're trying to find a safe place to pull over?
So our vehicle pursuit policy specifies that a person has to actively attempt to flee away from your stop. So the difference between that is a person's driving slow, trying to find a parking space to safely stop, as opposed to somebody running red lights, speeding, going through intersections at a high rate of speed, and not failing to the officer's signal to stop. So the difference is the high speed and the vehicle code violations that they're continuing to.
Well, and if I may, there's also an evaluation of the suspect's actions. So I myself was involved in a pursuit where I don't think the suspect got beyond 15 miles an hour. It's because he wanted to ingest his narcotics before he went back to jail, right? But it was the continued active failure to yield to the police vehicle that constitutes the pursuit. Now, from the standpoint of the department, the expectation is that the officer declare themselves in pursuit on the radio, and that all of the criteria is met, as the sergeants have articulated, and that they themselves have activated their emergency equipment, and this person, in their opinion as police officers, has failed to yield to those attempts to stop the vehicle.
And Commissioner, we've seen that before, especially with an intoxicated driver driving slow compared to someone looking for a safe place to pull over. So it's judgment on the part of the officers in that lead vehicle. And that's happened before, where they've put on their lights and siren and the car is driving slow for a block or two and then they pull over. Sometimes they've said we're in pursuit, and we've reviewed that in the aftermath and declared that wasn't a pursuit because they were simply just trying to find a place to pull over after that discussion. And other times you may have someone who just wants to drive, like Chief Graham was saying, 10 or 15 miles an hour and just not stop for us, refusing to stop, which then eventually turns into that pursuit. So there is that little window there after a block or two of whether did they have an opportunity to pull over? Was there a safe place to pull over? And now they're not doing that. And where are we going to initiate the pursuit and say that we're in pursuit? And then if they happen just to pull over at that moment, then it can be evaluated at scene.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, thank you for the details, and thank you for the seriousness in which we take this matter, because we do know, unfortunately, how these situations can evolve and end tragically and unexpectedly. So we do appreciate your efforts. Chief Graham, you're always welcome to come back. So if you want to let us know before we call you that you're ready to get on the agenda, we can accommodate that.
Very good. I can sit down with the executive director and figure out, so we can calibrate what you're looking for and give you the report that you're looking for.
Excellent. So thank you all again. The commission will now take a 10-minute recess before we return for agenda item 4B. We'll return at 12:27. Thank you. Commission meeting will resume. We will now return to our regular agenda items. Item number 4B, a report relative to the response to the City Council requests on youth programs. And I have, I believe, Chief Reyna and Chief Espinosa.
Thank you for the promotion.
Commander Espinosa. Sorry
Yes,
for the,
sir.
Sorry for the field promotion.
No, it's okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, President, Commissioners, Inspector General, Chief McDonald, and Mr. Sibley, Carlos De La Guerra, and the admin staff here today. As the report reflects, we have a request from the City Council to report on our youth programs dated September 4th. So I oversee the Police Academy Magnet Schools, the cadets, and the Police Orientation Preparation Program. And Chief Reyna, through Recruitment Division, oversees the Associate Community Officer Program. So what I have today is I have the 3 officers in charge with me here today. And they can answer any questions you may have, or I've also prepared a presentation that is a little more detailed, but it is a little bit lengthy. I can trim it down depending on whatever you want.
We're going to opt for brevity today.
Thank you, sir. Do you have any questions that you want to start with, or do you want me to just go right into the presentation?
You can go into the presentation, but before you do, I just want to commend you and your staff on these programs. All of us have been out to graduations and events that these programs have hosted for us, and I cannot tell you, the participants, their parents, the community, the officers involved, and the sponsors are just extremely enthusiastic and really seem to enjoy and benefit from these programs. So thank you for all the hard work that you do. They're well attended, and they're well received, and your work is being extremely well done. So I'll open with that and just go ahead and let you with the presentation.
Thank you very much, sir. And as I go through the presentation, if you can just bear in mind that our commitment and the backdrop of our youth programs is to make sure that these kids are safe and well taken care of, that we are in a professional environment with them at all times, and we have that commitment to the parents as well who entrust us with their children. So that is not lost on us, and that is a priority for us. So
thank
I'll
you.
start with the cadets real quick. The cadet program, which we have known as a Police Explorer program in the past, was established in 1962 by Chief William H. Parker. The program was in essence created to motivate the city's youth to assume responsible positions in various careers, but particularly careers in law enforcement. To maximize the personal and scholastic potential of the kids was the goal, while emphasizing the importance of leadership, academic excellence, ethical decision-making, and community stewardship. Right now, the program has evolved into a program that develops our youth by providing a safe place and encourages educational, social, and life skills development. Right now, the cadets must be between the ages of 13 and 17 years of age. The grade point average should be a 2.0 or above. They must also maintain good moral character, and they're required to obtain a medical examination and demonstrate a willingness to serve the community and participate in cadet activities. And I would like to note, for purposes of members of the public listening, that the United States citizenship is not a requirement to participate in the cadet program. So we welcome everyone with open arms, regardless of legal status in the country. The candidates must successfully complete the Cadet Leadership Academy for a 13-week course, and that runs the gamut of life skills, several lessons, a variety of topics with lessons and classes ranging from ethics and morality to finance and health. The program consists of 26 cadet posts citywide, including all 21 geographic divisions. We have South Traffic and Central Traffic, as well as University of Southern California and LAX Airport Police that also have posts. The cadets' participation activities range from physical training, tutoring sessions, guest speakers on topics of financial literacy, substance abuse awareness and education, leadership, and public speaking. Cadets also participate in other activities throughout the year. Some of these events include sports tournaments, Los Angeles Dodger details, beach trips, and they work. Also, one of the significant events is the LA Marathon, and participation in countless of other volunteer events. Yes, ma'am.
Can I, sorry, can I, do you think at some later date, like in next month or so, that, or in the next couple of months, we could have some either current cadets or alumni come? So, because I feel like with this presentation, I don't want to give any program short shrift. It would be wonderful to have, like, for different presentations at commissions, like one time focusing on the cadet program with potentially some current or alums who talk about the program. I think that will give us a lot more flavor, because we have been to the graduations, and I think it would be because I don't want to rush you to, like, just give us stats, because I thought the report was helpful to have the specific information that the city council has requested. So for purposes of that, we're good.
Yes.
But would that help a little bit to have a separate session on each of these programs?
Absolutely, we can do that. We will invite alum cadets that are not in school, because it's kind of difficult to get them out of school to be here. So I can recap that with the number of participants. We have a total of 1,069 cadets citywide that we work with, and I would love to have them here to present in the future. Did you want me to go into a little bit of the POP program? Okay. So the Police Orientation Preparation Program was established in 2009 by former LAUSD Board President Roberta Weintraut as a one-semester program for high school seniors interested in law enforcement. Today, the POP offers students a 2-year associate degree, and the credits are fully transferable to Cal State universities and universities of California. Applicants are required to have a high school diploma or equivalent with a serious interest in careers in law enforcement, and they should have the ability to successfully complete college-level work. Students that attend the POP are at ARTC or LA Valley College. They attend classes Monday through Thursday as a cohort, and the tuition is covered by the California Promise program, which provides all high school graduates 2 years of free community college tuition. The program is supervised by 2 supervisors, 2 Sergeant 2s, and is staffed with 2 Police Officer 3s at each of the sites, and they're assigned to coordinate the daily activities while ensuring the safety of the students. In terms of recruitment for this program, our officers are engaged in recruiting year-round, and the majority of the POP students come from the Police Academy magnet high schools and the LAPD cadet program. So officers conduct recruitment visits at each of the 21 LAPD stations and at each cadet academy to seek out cadets who are interested in attending the POP program. The POP program started in 2009 with approximately 150 graduates, and 120 of those are now with LAPD as officers. So recruitment division recruiters are also invited to present at our POP meetings with the students each year, and many POP students seek part-time employment with the ACOP program, but the capacity is limited right now, and Chief Reyna will discuss the ACOP program. So right now, POP currently has 139 students. We have 67 at ARTC and 72 at LA Valley College. And last but not least for me is going to be the Police Academy Magnet School program. We have that program in 10 LA Unified School District sites, 7 high schools and 3 middle schools. There's approximately 1,168 students enrolled, and they are offered with a unique opportunity to learn from experienced LAPD and LA Unified School District police officers. It's a joint program, and at each one of the schools, we have one LAPD officer and we have one LAUSD officer. Officers in the PAMS program are assigned to the school site, and they serve as the students' mentors. They guide them through the classroom instruction, leadership training, and field trips to various LAPD facilities. The PAMS program is open to any LA Unified School District student interested in a career in law enforcement or public service. LAUSD publishes a catalog each year listing the PAMS schools in their area, and students apply during that period. In terms of recruitment, each PAMS school site is responsible for recruiting students. School site officers and the LAUSD coordinators actively engage in various recruitment strategies, including hosting open events at their schools, attending magnet recruiting fairs, and conducting outreach visits to local schools. And the efforts aim to inform potential students and their families about the program and encourage enrollment at each of the schools that are participating. Right now, we have funding through LA Unified School District for their uniforms and everything else they need. There's also outside independent donors that participate in all the 3 programs, but most of their funding comes from LA Unified School District, and a lot of what we do with the program in terms of expanding it or any changes to the program has to be done in conjunction with the LA Unified School District. So with that, that was very short and sweet, but if you have any questions or comments, we're here to answer them.
I was gonna let Chief Rayner go, and then we could, all those questions and comments for the entire program.
Sure.
For all the programs.
Thank you. I'd like to just give you a summary of our Associate Community Officer program that is overseen by Recruitment and Employment Division. So in preparation for a career in law enforcement, an associate community officer is a paid civilian employee of the police department who performs a variety of law enforcement support duties under general supervision and performs related work as required. During the performance of job duties, associate community officers may be rotated to varying assignments throughout the department. Some of the requirements to become a ACOP, in short, current enrollment in or graduation from the Police Orientation or Preparation Program, or graduation from Police Academy Magnet School program within the last 2 years, or current participation in the LAPD Cadet Program, or current enrollment in a college, university, and you have a digital invitation from our personnel division, or you can have 6 months of experience as a volunteer or intern for the LAPD, or you're currently participating in a community-based organization. You must be at least 18 years of age, and when you become 20, you must apply for the police officer position with the department. When they fill out their application, they take a multiple choice test, which is just a qualifying test, pass or fail. They take a physical fitness test, which is just for advisory purposes only, and the interview is 100% of their score. Currently, there's been 110 associate community officers since the program inception in 2017. Currently, there are 24 ACOP assigned to 15 different divisions around the department. The breakdown of those 24 right now are 12 males and 12 female, so it's 50% female, which is great. One of those was just recently hired to be a police officer starting in our next class. 21 of the 24 are in the hiring process right now. 35 of the 110 have been hired as police officers since the inception of the program. That's 31%. But if you're adding on the 21 of 24, if they successfully complete that hiring process, you're looking at 50% of the 110 would have been hired on to be a police officer. Of the 35 that have been hired with the department, 8 went through the cadet program, 9 went through the POP program, 2 went through both of those programs, and 2 went through both the POP and the PAMS program. There's been 51 resignations or terminations in the program, but for a variety of reasons, career change, education, finances, hired by other departments. relocated to different states, and a multitude of reasons why they may have been resigned from the program or been terminated. Overall, we think the program is really good. It's a good feeder, in a sense, for those coming off the cadet program when they turn 18 and going into the ACOP program. However, in working with personnel department, we would like to look at some changes in the program overall to make it more efficient, to open it up overall. And some of those recommendations right off the bat is modifying the background. If you're going into the ACOP program, you're going through a full police officer background, but you're coming on as a paid civilian employee. So for example, if someone comes into that ACOP program when they're 19, 19 and a half, and then at say 20, 20 and a half, they apply, they've passed that background, and then they have to do the background all over again. So it's slowing down the process, and it's adding more workload onto our background investigators, which we all know has been an issue overall of trying to streamline that process. We would like to modify the requirements that would not force the associate community officer to resign if they did not want to be a sworn officer. There are other positions within the department, so if they're coming at 20 and they say, hey, I would not like to be a police officer, although I enjoy my time, but I'd rather be a custody officer, I'd rather be a clerk, I'd rather do something else, work communications, we'd like to modify that job post with personnel department in order to allow them that opportunity, especially when the department has seen the staffing shortage in our civilian positions. We'd also like the ACOs to be exposed to a different job on the department, such as I described, detention officer, police service representative. Currently now they're in the divisions doing clerical work, helping out at the desk, maybe helping detectives filing paperwork and things like that to get a feel and being around the officers. But if we can expand that out to allow them the opportunity to see what else is within the department and those job opportunities. And then we are in discussions about relocating the whole program from recruitment. That was the original concept in 2017 as a recruitment opportunity, but maybe moving this to Community Safety Partnership Bureau or under the Office of Operations because of the interactions they're having with our community groups and our youth out there, to allow them that opportunity to come into this program because there's more contacts in the field with those officers assigned to those bureaus and those divisions rather than recruitment officers trying to find people to apply for that position. Again, that's just a preliminary discussion on those. So we feel there could be some modifications to the overall posting of that to allow for more opportunity for our young adults in our communities to join this program and to get an idea of what it is to be part of this department, and hopefully increase not only our numbers in our police officer classification, but all the other classifications we have within the department.
Well, thank you. Just a couple things before I defer to Vice President Shields. Again, thank you for the numbers and the success that you're tracking. I was at ARTC on Saturday morning, and Chief Hamilton was there, and he was identifying a number of folks who were in that audience that day who've been in these programs before. As we struggle with the hiring process, to the extent possible, I mean, there should be some kind of priority hire track for people like this, along with the SkillBridge applicants that we get as well, and we had 3 of them on Saturday. So these are folks that understand what we do, understand policing, want to be police officers, and with all due respect to 110 people on Saturday that may have been in the room, they should have a priority as it relates to the process and getting them through it. So thank you for doing that. Interesting concept to have this go under CSP or ops. So we'd love to see how that might work and what you believe that would look like. I understand the reason why, and it seems to make a lot of sense. If I'm coming from that community and interacting with those officers in that community, perhaps that's who should be mentoring me along the way. So I just, again, I would look forward to what that may look like in terms of a proposal. But thank you for the hard work. Vice President Shields.
Thank you. Thank you for all of the different programs and summaries. And I do look forward to seeing more and seeing some of the alums from these programs. I'll start with what we were talking about last, the Associate Community Officer Program. I do kind of see it almost as an extension of our youth programs as opposed to putting it in the recruiting, because it can naturally bridge more opportunities there when they just see that this is one more step that is potentially available to them. In terms of, the first bullet point, and thank you for the recommendations. I thought those were very helpful because I think we had talked about this before at a meeting and we're like, why do they need post-level investigation, given how complex that is and given our shortages of being able to do that for our entry recruits. So when your recommendation, or one of the recommendations is that the background investigation could be done by a personnel division civilian background investigator, that would be someone within the department, and it would not have to get to the full level of a post investigation, but just what a normal civilian would have. Is that
Correct. So if the department were to hire civilian support staff right now, they would go through a limited background. And that is handled by the police department, our own staff and civilian employment section background investigator, as compared to the background investigators assigned to personnel department and recruitment that are working together on overall police officer and reserve officer backgrounds.
Yeah, I fully support that recommendation and your other recommendations of not putting artificial restrictions on. We should be happy to have these folks in the program, whether or not they become officers in the law. They can go into hundreds of other fields, but if they have the knowledge of what it looks like internal, they could go into mental health because they're motivated by what they've seen with working with the department. And we'll now have people who are more police informed in those units. So I would get rid of any of those types of artificial restrictions that require them to sign up by a specific age, which would basically cause them to have to choose between being an officer or finishing college, or if they're just not ready and want and need a little bit more time and enjoy what they're working within the department. And we all know that we need as many civilian staffs in the department as well. So fully support all of these recommendations, and I would love to see that program grow because we do so well with our youth programs, and then there's a gap, and if we can capture those folks and give them an outlet, then we're more likely to transition them into being officers. So really fantastic. And Commander Espinosa, really great job, and thank you for all the statistics. It's great to see that we're kind of having maybe not gender parity, but very close, and that we're attracting both men and women to this program. With regards to the demographics as a whole, it's terrific that we're doing so well with our Hispanic community. Is there anything more we can be doing, or is it location-based, or what do you, is there anything more that we can do to attract other communities to the program as well?
I think there is. One of the things we're doing, and we want to increase the program in every demographic, obviously. We are trying to leverage our social media in a more modern way for some of the younger folks to be attracted to the program by showcasing some of the work the kids are already doing. That has been a useful tool in the past, and I just think that doing what we're doing now and getting out and being a little more intentional, and I don't want to use the word aggressive, but just a little more focused on attending other events, and having, one of the things that I like to see is having the pop-ups at other events, whether it's sporting events or open houses or holiday toy giveaways, and use those opportunities to showcase the program and have the kids there from any one of the programs. And I know that our team does a lot of that already. I just think that we have to continue to push and be a little smarter about when, and maximize the times and the dates, and just kind of be a little more laser focused, because the efforts are already there. And there is a significant number of Hispanic members in the programs, which is great because it reflects the city. But we also want to increase that in other demographics, and we're trying to work with the divisions, all 21 divisions, to make sure that they don't forget about these programs when they're scheduling their Taste of Soul, when they're standing up their events for community outreach, their carnivals and things like that. So it's all on our radar, and we continue to push hard to make sure that we do justice to the work and to the program.
Do we have like flyers that can be left behind at like houses of worship or other locations throughout the city, just with whether a QR code or some other thing where they can get more information about the program?
We do, and the 21 divisions all do it differently. So we do look at best practices to try to implement those across the board. So those are the things that we do look at. We do have some flyers with QR codes and everything, but one of the things that we have talked about also is standardizing our strategy so that, you know, what works for one division, we can make sure that we put that in other areas where they can have similar successes. So 21 divisions, it's great. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of oversight more than anything. So it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. So it's just a matter of staying on top of it on a regular basis.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
Quick question regarding the numbers in terms of the cadets by division. I see Mission Division has almost double the number of cadets and everybody else except for Foothill and then closely followed by Devonshire. Why is that?
It depends on the efforts of the command. It depends on the outreach in the community mission division. SLOs are very active in the community, as are a lot of them. I just think they sometimes get lucky, and a lot of them are generational as well. So there's like cousins and sisters and brothers who graduated from the program many years ago, and the families continue to stay involved. So Mission Division has some of that, as does Newton Division. As a matter of fact, in Newton Division, there is an officer that works the Community Safety Partnership Bureau. She came up through this program. Her sisters came up through the program, and they all still live in that community. So Mission Division has a lot of that, and that does stand out. This is a topic that I also discuss in ComStat when they come up, and I talk about the homelessness aspects and the youth programs. Is, you know, best practices, why does one division have this? That's one of my opportunities to be able to see and compare. So we are aware of that, and it is unique at Mission Division.
Thank you. That was going to be the follow-up, is how do we integrate those best practices to ensure that every division is either learning from Mission Division in this case, or you know, just in general sharing with each other?
Yes, so one of the other aspects that we that I discuss for consistency and accountability across 21 divisions is to make sure that they're intimately familiar with our youth programs manual and that there is always a way of reaching parents in case of an emergency. So those are the things that we focus on, and to make sure that we're all doing it the same. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're
Well,
welcome, sir.
If there are no other questions or comments, again, just thank you for the incredible work. We look forward to seeing some alums here in the future.
Yes, sir.
And I move that we approve the recommendation for board action on this report. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Again, thank you very much. We'll now move on to regular agenda item 4C, the department's report relative to Custody Services Division audit. And I have Administrator Sargent and Captain Otero. Good morning. Or should I say good afternoon?
Good morning.
And Administrator
Well,
Sargent,
good
if you'll
afternoon.
introduce everyone, that'd be great. Or they can introduce themselves.
Today I have with me Lieutenant Sean Saboto and also Police Performance Auditor Sergio Saiz, and Captain Otero is from Custody Services. Today we're going to share with you a brief overview of the Custody Services Division audit, and this was conducted as part of our 2024 annual audit plan. In looking at the policies and procedures related to Custody Services Division, the audit tested 4 objectives, and these were in 3 primary areas. They included whether supervisors completed their required training, whether the inmate safety checks were performed properly and in a timely manner, and whether the suicide intervention kits were inspected and that the inspection was documented. The report shows the department achieved 95 to 100% compliance in all categories, and also received increased compliance results in all areas compared to a 2021 audit. Audit Division has met with Custody Services Division, and they're in general agreement with the audit's findings. And we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. I don't have any questions or comments. Vice President Shields.
Yeah, I was just going to mark on the great increase in compliance from 2021 to 2024 on the suicide intervention kit. And so this kind of demonstrates the importance of having audits, that this likely identified a big gap that was happening. And then they figured out a way to just memorialize it and figure it out. And now you're at a much higher percentage. So thank you for this. And otherwise, no additional comments, and great improvement, and keep it up.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
And no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I will then go ahead and move on the approval of the recommendation for board action to approve the department's report. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you again for your work. We'll now move on to regular agenda item number 4D. The department's report relative to the department's 2025 annual audit plan. And Administrator Sergeant remains,
Yes.
and others. Okay, great. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Oh, perfect. So the list that you have before you is the department's 2025 annual audit plan. The topics on this list were derived from discussions with key stakeholders within the department, department leadership, command staff, direct reports. So everybody weighed in, and we also looked at a review of past audits, and this list was formed. All of these topics are relatively new, and they haven't really been covered in recent years, with the exception of AB 41, which is the required annual reporting of military equipment used by law enforcement agencies. So this annual audit plan continues and outlines our formal audits, but we are available to do inspections and special reviews as needed, and we always prioritize those requested by the chief and the commissioners. And we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. I have two questions on the topics that you've outlined here. What are defined as perishable skills?
Yes, those are the, for that particular audit, we're looking at the continuing training and ensuring that officers, the sworn employees, have received their 24 hours of training within a 2-year period, and that's required by post.
Okay. But is there something specific as the skill set that we're making sure that they're being retrained on every 2 years?
Yes.
Good morning, Commissioner. I can speak to that.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Svoboda. So perishable skills, they've been defined by post to be skills that police officers use on a regular basis. It's still, they need updated training on. That can include firearms, can include driving, first aid. There's arrest and control techniques, things of that nature.
Okay.
And so I can't give you a comprehensive list. I can provide that to you later, but those are what we mean by perishable skills.
No, that's very helpful. No, thank you. The other question I have is on the second to the last item on medical inability to meet the department's firearm qualification standards. What happens to these officers in that situation?
To continue to address that, so in that, there are some specific circumstances in where an officer would lose their ability or their certification to use a firearm. If they're extended sick, injured on duty, et cetera, there's some specific circumstances where their certification would be taken away from them. And it's for safety reasons, because they haven't qualified, and we want to make sure all of our officers are well qualified with their firearms. And we have a department policy that lays that out in that criteria. I can get you the specifics on that. But there's another issue there as well. They also may lose their abilities to effect an arrest as well if they're long-term IOD, and 1 year is the marker for the firearms in particular.
So the reason I'm asking is, assuming that happens, and let's just say it's a long-term IOD, are they able to then continue to work in a different capacity for the department, absent the firearm and absent being in the field?
There are some programs in place. That's probably a question for medical liaisons since they implement that program. But yes, the idea is even if somebody's long-term sick or injured on duty, that provided that it's all in good faith, that they're making an effort to come back to the job, that we have methods to get them back into the field and certified.
Great.
There are procedures for reinstatement when someone's been off.
I see. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Vice President Shields.
I just had one question about what, for the certificate of release forms, what is that exactly? The others seem to be pretty self-explanatory.
Can you speak to that as well? The certificate of release forms, in particular, when somebody is arrested, there needs to be provided some sort of a certificate of release. And I'll give you a real practical world example. Let's say that you're arrested on suspicion of a burglary, but then the detectives determine you actually did not commit a burglary, and then you're released. Well, you may have missed work. You may have been booked, and you may have missed several hours of your work. So you give them a certificate of release. They can show their boss, see, this is what happened, and clearly I'm innocent. But the department has a policy where certificate of releases must be provided to arrestees that are released. And so some of the policies in this are they're relatively new. And so we want to ensure that these policies are actually being adhered to, because it is it's definitely important for the person who's been arrested and then released. But because it's a newer policy, we believe that this might be a risk management issue. We want to look into it.
Okay. Commissioner Garcia?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Well, again, thank you for the report. I would move that we approve the department's report. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. The final item on today's regular agenda is the Inspector General's report relative to the Office of the Inspector General Annual Audit Plan as set forth. Okay. Good morning, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Madam Inspector General, Chief McDonald, Mr. Sibley, Mr. De La Guerra. I'm Brian Buckner, the Assistant Inspector General from the OIG Audit Section. Before you today is the proposed annual audit plan for the Office of the Inspector General for calendar year 2025. The format of our plan actually mirrors the department's audit plan, as you just discussed and approved. We wanted to maintain some consistency both in the presentation and the structure. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the OIG's audit section for their research and thoughtful consideration of various sources of information that informed the development of this plan. We also received helpful feedback from Acting Assistant Inspectors General Joey Lapari and John Garner. We also got some feedback and input from Chief McDonald directly and from Police Administrator Sargent, so I want to thank them for their contributions. I'd like to highlight a few key points about the plan and then turn it over to you for any questions. The plan serves as a guiding framework for staff rather than a definitive commitment for specific reports or timelines. In selecting topics, we considered several factors, including results of past audits and OIG recommendations, directives from the Board of Police Commissioners to the OIG or to the department, new or amended department policies, findings from external reviews, and discussions with department management. And finally, the list of proposed audits and any identified priorities remain subject to change based on direction from the commission or the incoming permanent inspector general. The timing just dictated that we bring this to the commission before that individual has started in that position. Having said that, I'm happy to address any questions that the commission might have.
Thank you very much. We have discussed many of these over the past year, so I don't have any additional questions or comments. Vice President Shields.
No, thank you. I think you've identified a number of issues that are very significant and of interest to the commission. So I'll be looking forward to seeing what unfolds, and also understand the need to be flexible as issues arise that take away the resources that, many times the commission asks for more things throughout the year. So I understand that this isn't a firm list of everything that we can expect next year. But I would love to continue to be kept abreast of a lot of these issues. So looking forward to that. And the issues look good for approving the audit.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
Same, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Then I move that we approve the Inspector General's report. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. The commission will now recess into closed session. Thank you.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item numbers 5A and 5B in accordance with Government Code 54957.
Good evening. The commission has completed closed session, and we will have a readout by Executive Director Sibley. Mr. Sibley?
Thank you, Mr. President. So we're starting with item 5A. At the regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners on December 10, 2024, during the closed session, the board made the following findings, each by a 3-0 vote. So for 5A1, non-tactical unintentional discharge, case number 072-23. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer 2. And for unintentional discharge, accidental discharge, 1 police officer 2. For 5A2, which is officer-involved shooting 001-24. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer 3. Administrative disapproval, 1 police officer 1. For drawing and exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 3 and 1 police officer 1. And for lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 3. And for 5A3, which is officer-involved shooting 002-24. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer 3, 1 police officer 2, and 1 police officer 1. For drawing and exhibition of a firearm, in policy, for no further action, 1 police officer 3, 1 police officer 2, and 1 police officer 1. And for lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 3, 1 police officer 2, and 1 police officer 1. And then for item 5B1, the matter was discussed, and that concludes the report out, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. And with that, I move that we adjourn today's meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.